Hello and welcome everyone to the Jackavelli Christmas Special. So this is going to be my top 10 snow levels in video games. Snow levels are some of my favorite kinds of areas that you see in games because you get all the aesthetic benefits of a nice snowy day without the major downsides like scraping ice off the windshield of your car at 6 in the morning. So winter themed levels have always been a big favorite for me, and there's definitely some classic ones out there that I'm excited to go over today. Before I get into the list, I want to go over some honorable mentions of games that are either entirely or almost entirely winter. Metal Gear Solid 1 is a big one that takes place in Alaska, and you can definitely feel it in the game. Skyrim is entirely set in a snowy region, and I really like how different areas of the game have different levels of how cold it seems. Like there's like glaciers up towards the north, but then when you get down a little bit more southern, it seems a little bit warmer. Spider-Man Miles Morales is another good one. As a way to experience New York City in Christmas time, it really captures that aesthetic super well, and it provides a really nice contrast to the original Spider-Man game. And then one more I want to shout out that not a lot of people talk about anymore is Wii Ski and Snowboard from the Wii. It featured two giant snow mountains that you could either ski or snowboard down, both with tons of ramps and places you could do tricks off of. One was more of a ski resort, and the other was a very untouched mountain that you might see in like the Alps. It's a super fun game, one that I wish could come back in modern platforms in some way, but you never know. But enough about that, let's get into the main list. And at number 10, I have the Snow Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey. You might think that this seems a little bit low down on the list at number 10, and while I do like it a lot, there are some shortcomings that I think it has as the dedicated winter level. Mainly the fact that the majority of it seems to be taking place inside the interior part of the Snow Kingdom, which is cool, and it's definitely got a cool cozy vibe to it, but it doesn't really capture the really wintry aesthetic that I like to see. But still, even within it, it's an awesome snow level. The entire top part of the level just captures the whole vibe super well. It feels very desolate, very isolated, very cold and icy. I really like how a lot of the enemies are wearing Santa hats. I think that plays into the Christmassy aspect of a winter level, which I really like to see, but it doesn't go overboard with it, which is also good. Yeah, it's a great level in a great game, but there's 9 snow levels that I would place above it. So at number 9, I've got Shiver City from the original Paper Mario. It's a fairly small area, especially compared to some of the other ones in this list, but I think it just captures the whole wintry feel super well. I like that the town is pretty much entirely populated with penguins. I think that having NPCs be on point is very important for a winter level, and penguins is just the perfect option for that. Just how the town looks, covered in snow, is super well done. The music is fantastic. The fact that you have to solve a penguin murder mystery while you're there just really adds to the whole thing. It's got the ice skating rink. You have to go down a chimney at one point. It's awesome. It's the kind of winter level you just want to see in an RPG like this. Okay, so at number 8, I have the level Hot Springs from the original Ape Escape. There's a few snow levels in Ape Escape in the Ice Age section of the game, but the reason I chose this one is that I really love the contrast between the hot springs and the very cold, desolate outside area. The whole thing just reminds me of going out into a hot tub in the middle of the winter with snow all around you, but you are super warm. It's cool that there's this bit of Japanese influence there as well with the whole bathhouse kind of vibe. Yeah, I just really like the contrast between the very dark and cold outside and then the bright and hot and steamy inside of the hot springs. Ape Escape is another game I wish had a little bit more push these days, but you know, what can you do? And so speaking of this kind of contrast, that takes us to number 7, which is the Freeze Flame Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. If you haven't played Super Mario Galaxy, Freeze Flame flips between the very icy and cold part of it and then a very lava-focused part of the level too. I really like how you start off ice skating, having to chase a penguin around. That's a great throwback, I think, to another level that might be on this list. And I really like the ice skating mechanic in Super Mario Galaxy, where if you spin once, then you have more control over where you go versus just sliding around. And I'm pretty sure that this level was the introduction of the ice flower too in any Mario game, so you gotta give it props for that. Yes, a lot of the level takes place in a very magma-centric type of environment, but I think that just makes the colder parts stand out more, and it really makes this level unique in a game that's full of unique levels. Number 6 is Cool Mountain from Super Mario 64. This is one I think a lot of people would expect to be higher up on this list, but I've got some other good ones, so you'll see. But of course, Cool Mountain, it has to be on this list. Cool Mountain is basically the blueprint for any type of snow level in any type of game since Mario 64's release. I'm not just talking about 2D platforms, I'm talking about basically everything. Once again, I like the inclusion of penguins here. I think penguins are always a great addition for a snow level, and Mario 64 with Cool Mountain was really the one that set that standard. I love the sign referencing Santa Claus in the very beginning, gives you just a little bit of hint of Christmas. The ice slide part is super fun, very frustrating if you're young and playing it for the first time, but still super fun. Helping the mama penguin find her kid is awesome. I like the part that is sort of simulating a chairlift. I think that is done really well. It is just fantastic. It's one of the best snow levels of all time. It's probably the most iconic snow level of all time, and it totally deserves to be thought of as one of the best. So at number 5, I have Mount Wario from Mario Kart 8. I had quite a few Mario Kart levels I was thinking about when making this list, but Mount Wario just had to be the one I went with. First of all, my favorite Mario Kart tracks are the ones where it's not just 3 laps, it's 3 sections of a course, so you're just doing one whole giant course the entire way. So it automatically gets points for that, but then it also just totally feels like you're skiing down a mountain. You start off being dropped off at the very summit of the mountain. You're going down through the snow, through the ice, you go through the caves, go through the Wario Dam. You eventually end up in more of a ski resort kind of vibe with chairlifts and like slalom courses around you. And then you end up at the base of the mountain with the ski lodge and all. It is just so great as a winter level. It just captures so much of the season all in one course. I think it also strikes a very good balance that a lot of Mario Kart courses struggle with, of not being too zany, but also not being overly realistic. It sits just in the middle there. Like, you can tell it's a ski mountain, but it's got its own twist to it that really make it special. So moving on to number 4. Now, this is a bit of a strange one because I'm not sure it really technically has a name, but it's the snowy mountain area from Death Stranding. To me, this area is where a lot of what makes Death Stranding work really comes and clicks together. And I think it really captures the essence of what Death Stranding was trying to go after in terms of being like a walking or a hiking simulator. There's no better place to have that than the snow-capped mountains. It's really awesome. One thing is just the animation of how the snow moves underneath your feet is super realistic, and I'm kind of like astonished that video games are this good graphically. It's where I think the theme of isolation that Death Stranding really goes after becomes the most apparent. And what it does is it really delivers on the feeling of seeing a super tall mountain in the distance and thinking, I want to climb that. And then through your work and dedication, you're able to achieve it. It's where some of the more end game mechanics come into play too, like the zip lines, and creating a zipline system around the mountains is also super fun. It's by far my favorite part of Death Stranding, and I think it really proves how traversal can be a more prevalent game mechanic versus something like combat. So number 3, which you also might find surprising on a list that has a lot of Mario levels in it, is Cliffhanger from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And that's the original Modern Warfare 2 from 2009, not the new Modern Warfare 2. God, they gotta get the names in better order. But this is one of the best cinematic missions, I think, that I've ever seen in a video game. It really sets a high watermark, not just for Modern Warfare 2, but I think for the Call of Duty series in general. Because it starts off with you climbing up this icy cliffside, and it doesn't go super well, and it feels really tense. Then it turns into like the stealth mission where you're taking down guys under the cover of this giant blizzard that's happening. Then, of course, in typical Call of Duty fashion, everything starts blowing up and it's a giant firefight, and then it ends in a giant snowmobile chase. Like, oh my god, it's awesome. The only problem with it is that I think it sets a bit too high of a standard for Call of Duty levels. Like, I don't play Call of Duty much anymore these days, but even when I did in like the Black Ops era, no levels were as good as Cliffhanger was. It really feels like a section of an action movie that you're playing through, and it's really well done. Okay, so number 2, which is not just one of the best snow levels in video games, but I also think one of the best levels, period, in video games. And that is Cliffside Slide from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. This level, and the whole game that it's in, but especially this level, is a masterpiece. Essentially what it is you're climbing up an avalanche as it's happening. It's also one of the silhouettes silhouetted levels in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which are some of the best ones aesthetically, and the contrast between Donkey Kong and his, black outline and then the white snow all around you just works so perfectly. The music is triumphant and bombastic. It feels like it's encouraging you to keep going, because Tropical Freeze is a pretty tough game. This level is no exception, and in a hard game, you want music to sort of accompany that. One really cool thing is in a few parts in the background, you can see elements from Donkey Kong Country Returns being blown away. This is something that's true throughout the whole final world of Tropical Freeze because it takes place on Donkey Kong Island, which is where the entirety of Returns takes place. And it's great to see little throwbacks like this to the previous game. It just shows that the developers are paying attention to detail. And eventually you get to the top of the mountain and it feels like you really are on top of the mountain in terms of what you've accomplished getting there. So we finally made it to number 1. Now, if you've played the game that this level is from, you probably know what's coming because it really could not ever be omitted from a list like this. And I am, of course, talking about Freezeezy Peak from Banjo-Kazooie. This level is what every winter level aspires to be. It's what every winter level should be. It is the gold standard, no questions asked. First of all, let me just say the music. The music, the music, the music. The level could just be a blank screen with only the music playing, and I'd probably place it at least number 5 here. In a game with such a great soundtrack, this one still manages to stand out. It is the perfect music for a snowy, wintry, Christmassy level. I really like that it starts out with you meeting some polar bears, because for one thing, it establishes that there are other bears in the world of Banjo-Kazooie besides just Banjo himself. And it being polar bears feels very, very on theme, which is great. There's, of course, the giant snowman that's the centerpiece of a level. There's also like a little wintry village in one part. There's some Christmas presents in one area. There's the giant Christmas tree, which you can go into, and the part where you have to get the lights to the Christmas tree and defend them on the way, which is a pretty frustrating minigame, but it's still very, very well done. I like that you turn into a walrus at one part. Who wouldn't want to turn into a walrus? It is just so masterfully done as a winter level. I really can't say enough good things about it. Like, when December rolls around every year, I wish I could live in Freezeezy Peak. That's how good it is. And there's no number 0, so that's gonna do it for this list. I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. Thanks to everyone who's been watching me over this past year and helping the channel to grow. And really thanks for the encouraging comments, because even when a video doesn't do super well, getting 1 or 2 comments saying that it's good and to keep going, it really, really helps a lot. So I can't thank those of you who've done that enough. And I don't plan on slowing down anytime soon. I've got a lot of ideas that I'm excited to make videos for, so I hope you'll check them out. All right, thank you everyone for watching, and have a great holiday.